Get a little sunshine, sprinkle it with dew.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but theater kids are not my favorite.
Shut up.
Anywho, we're back with Flashback Friday.
What's up, my bros?
And this week we watched Sunshine. Now, unbeknownst to me, not a lot of people even heard of Sunshine. Every time I bring it up, they're like, oh, you mean Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? I'm like, no. I said Sunshine.
Sunshine.
It is Danny Boyle and Alex Garland starring.
So I'm just going to go through the list and their characters. Cliff Curtis as Searle. Chipo Chung as Icarus. I think that's how you pronounce it. If it's not, you can totally flame me in the comments. Cillian Murphy as Robert Capa. Michelle Yeoh as Corazon. Hiroyuki Sanada as Kaneda. Rose Byrne as Cassie. Benedict Wong as Trey. Chris Evans as Mace. Troy Garrity as Harvey. Mark Strong as Pinbacker. Paloma Beza, I don't know who that is, as Kappa's sister. Archie McDonald as a child. Sylvie McDonald as a child. Kevin Hudson as
we got the
Icarus
meat of it.
one.
This cast is amazing.
Stellar. You could say it's Sunshine.
So, Alex Garland and Danny Boyle team up again. It is a phenomenal sci-fi horror flick. And basically the details are Earth's sun is dying.
Ruh-roh.
And a group of scientists send a mission out to ignite basically a huge atomic bomb to reignite the sun.
I believe they said it was the size of Manhattan Island.
Yep. The first mission, Icarus 1, failed. They lost all contact.
They flew too close to the sun.
So now Icarus 2 is going up, and that's the main cast we have with Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Benedict Wong, Michelle Yeoh, Rose Byrne, and there's the two I can't remember, Harvey and
Hiroyuki Sanada and
three.
Cliff Curtis and
Cliff Curtis. I love that dude
and
from
Troy
Three Kings. So awesome.
and Troy Garrity.
Troy Garrity, this is kind of like whatever, the Harvey guy. But this cast is phenomenal.
Oh my God.
The fact that you're in close quarters, being in space, phenomenal. The idea of the sun and that they have to keep this shield in front of them so they're not getting burned, yet you have one, at least I can think of, that constantly is trying to up the amount of sun he can look at, and then every time you see him, his face is a little more sunburned and chapped, and it's just like, wow, psychologically unbelievable.
It's a stellar film. I love the psychological aspect of the isolation in space and like how we as humans idolize the sun in ways we kind of forget how ancient cultures would look at the sun as a deity, and how even now we still see it as like a fearsome, deadly force that's like, oh, that's gonna hurt if you stand in it too long. So it's interesting to see this psychological process of these people become obsessed with the sun in a terrifying way. Not to mention the fact that it's close quarters and you have everybody, like you have Kappa and Mace, Kappa and Mace, so Cillian Murphy and Chris Evans characters at each other's throats, because what was that line? It's there's a surge in masculinity in the plant bay.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's like you've got those two butting heads. You have Benedict Wong's character constantly having to do math that's pretty much driving him insane. You have Hiroyuki Sanada's character, Kaneda, who has to keep his crew together, the captain.
And Michelle Yeoh, who's the botanist, who is making sure everything's green and all that.
And Rose Byrne, who had the easiest job, which was to just watch the security cameras.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's great as bad things start happening, you really get character breakdown, like Harvey, who's basically second in command.
Yes.
At one point, Chris Evans, the whole time, it's the mission. It's the mission. And it's awesome because it's the mission. So his idea was to save the most important person on that ship, and that's Cillian Murphy, because he's the scientist that knows how to detonate the bomb. So they want to save him, and Harvey's like, I'm the captain. I should be the one that goes. And it's like, but you don't do anything, dude. Seriously. I think he was the comms director or something like that. And the comms, they lost all comms, so he was useless anyway. And it's like, dude, no way.
And what's awesome is in that exact same scene, we get probably one of the best writing fuck yous of all time. I love 2001: A Space Odyssey, the movie, and you can tell this film took a lot of creative inspiration from that, and that you have a lot of, we're gonna jump to the bay door through space with no air or little air, and you got like all the time, and it's very 2001-esque. and you have it so that they basically figure out if you create a vacuum in the space, it will propel them towards the other door. And again, as someone who loves physics and science, it's all brilliantly written, especially for 2007. And then you have the second in command and Mace, Chris Evans' character, wrap themselves in tinfoil to protect themselves from the cosmic radiation. And then they launch themselves out of it, but they get hit halfway through. So Chris Evans and Cillian Murphy's characters make it through, and the second in command douchebag gets launched off into the annals of space and burns up. And I'm sorry, my humor is broken. When I saw the scene of it zoomed out and he floats into the sun and he burns up, it looked like a shitpost, and I could not stop laughing.
Well, and Danny Boyle gave us the added benefit of showing close-ups of his like eyeballs freezing and him totally freezing, and then the wide shot of him.
Yeah, and it's like, you know what? You deserve that, dude. You were being a douchebag.
So again, this is a horror film, and we find out along the way why things had started to go bad and wrong, especially with Icarus One. And it's just a fascinating story, horror. The imagery is amazing, especially early 2000s. To watch this and be like, wow, the special effects are on point, even though this is a low budget, early 2000s film. And then the imagery that they use to sort of show the evil, and it's like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like it's
the
nightmarish.
The editing when they board Icarus One and the flashlight hits the camera and it flashes pictures of the crew of Icarus One. It's like, I don't care who you are, that is editing brilliance. I thought, like, did somebody mess up the editing? And then it kept happening. I was like, oh, that is brilliant. That is genius.
And as James pointed out, this is the first time I've ever seen it with James, the science was spot on. Like at one point, Cillian Murphy and Rose Byrne like jump off a platform or fall off a platform, and they're falling, and then they just stop. And I was like, huh. And James explained to me that once you get that close to the sun, there's no gravity. And I'm like, wow,
exactly.
I didn't
gravity
know that.
Collapses in on itself. And so it's because of the weird magnetism and the gravity that functions on the sun. It's essentially one giant vortex of gravity. So where they are is the center of gravity relative to the whole station. And it's all sorts of fucky.
So kudos to Alex Garland, man. That dude, brilliant.
Oh my gosh. It is stellar film. The science is impeccable. I love, it was, oh God, I already forgot his name. The Cancer Man, that's what I call him, because
Curtis?
Yes.
The guy that kept watching the sun?
No,
the bad guy.
The bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Cancer Man. It's a miracle in 7 years he did not die of melanomas or skin cancer. Like, he looked like a crispy chicken nugget. Dude, how did his feet not hurt?
Because he was in space with no gravity.
Okay.
Floating.
Anyways, that reveal was stunning. I remember we were watching it, and it's like the footage of him being like, we aren't supposed to do this, and he's all cancery, and then he comes back and he's naked and he's still cancery, and it's like, oh dude, you do not look too good. But it's such incredible foreshadowing when you really think about it. And I love how his whole thing is that he's been driven mad by the sun, and he's like, we're supposed to let humanity reach heaven and go to God. And it's like, shut up, dude. Shut up. You look like a chicken nugget that was left in the sun too long.
But what's awesome is, and I'm a big fan of this, there is a happy ending.
Yes.
And he predicted in the beginning when Cillian Murphy was giving the last message to his family, he said, one day you might look up and the sun will just be brighter. That means we succeeded. And that's exactly what we see when his kids are playing. They're in Australia, which I didn't quite understand.
Australia?
Yeah. It wasn't a George Miller film, so I didn't quite understand why we're in Australia.
Yeah.
But we're in Australia, and the kids are playing in the snow. You see the opera house in the background. Then all of a sudden, the sun just gets brighter.
And what I love so much about that moment is that earlier in the film, as Cillian Murphy's character is trying to calculate the probability of it succeeding, it's a 50-50 toss-up, because I don't know if they intentionally wrote this like this, but in quantum mechanics, something like a bomb of this magnitude exploding, I'm sorry, Chase, but it's good science, I promise. The probability of a bomb that size exploding when it comes to the magnetism of the sun almost completely falls under quantum physics and quantum computation. It's a toss-up whether it'll work or not, and to know that basically the fundamental laws of the universe were on the side of this ragtag crew of people who went crazy is just beautiful, considering the amount of accurate science they had in this, and just that little extra bit that I don't think they intended to add up is awesome. And also the visual effects in that final scene where they spark a second smaller Big Bang are just absolutely incredible to see. I don't, excuse me, my physics knowledge and science knowledge isn't perfect, but I believe those are meant to be tachyons flying when he first ignites the bomb, and then enough tachyons builds up pressure and explosion. But it's beautiful effects, great science. They did their research. Shut up. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I second that.
I like science.
How do magnets work?
Oh my God.